he just slowly crams more and more and more snacks into it. Like literally, he refuses to go on the mountain with an inch of space, not a single cubic inch of space.
No matter what size your pack is, like you've got that new EXO,
Yeah.
and every stitch was just whining.
Well, it's only a
little bit.
4800.
Welcome to the Built to Hunt podcast, brought to you by the team of hunt advisors at the Hunt and Fool magazine, where we are dedicated to helping our members go on more hunts with better information. Join Hunt and Fool today at huntandfool.com.
On today's Built to Hunt podcast, we have brought in the second string Alaska hunters because they were out of office chasing elk.
Ouch.
We've got Jared Lyle here and Brady Harang, our trusty, loyal cameraman, media producer, and what else are you?
Meat packer.
Meat packer.
Yeah, he packs a lot of meat.
Had a busy season, huh?
Yes.
Goat meat,
Austin,
elk
it's been
meat,
a very busy
deer
season.
meat.
Well, we wanted to talk about a continued lessons learned in Alaska. We had a bunch of experiences in Alaska this year, and we can always share tips, tactics, stuff we like, stuff we didn't like, because everybody out there should be planning an Alaska trip in some form or another. Even if it's a few years out, now is the time to go to Alaska. The opportunities abound, the game are plentiful, and the weather sucks.
Yes,
So
at some point in time it will.
go to Alaska. Brady, you have a unique take on Alaska and on hunts because your pack is usually just as heavy as ours, if not heavier, but it's full of lithium-ion batteries
Yes. Very full.
and plenty of food. Brady always takes plenty of snacks.
I run kind of hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think your pack and what you take is different than most because you're very concerned about your snacks. I mean, this guy will pull out a bag of Flaming Hot Cheetos on the top of the mountain.
And chili cheese Fritos, too.
Chips are not a bad one, though. They're lightweight. You got high calories, and it's a morale booster.
Morale booster.
Yeah.
You like the salt, right?
Yeah. And
Tastes good.
they're really good.
But Brady's trying to run and gun with cameras, and we throw meat on him, so he has to pack meat oftentimes. But you're not going to touch his snacks. He's got to take enough snacks. Do you feel like, food-wise, Brady, what has been a big deal to you on these Alaska hunts? You went to Canada as well on a stone sheep hunt. What is your favorite food to take, and what do you feel like you didn't take enough of or you took too much of? Tell me about Brady's eating habits.
I don't know if I can give you a specific answer because it's always changing, but I think that's the most important thing is to bring a variety of stuff. Like I'll see Jared, he'll pack a bag, and it'll be like, I have this many calories for this day, and then each bag is the same, so each day he's eating the same stuff mostly. I don't like that.
You like to mix it
I
up.
like variety, right? You bring some chocolate, you bring some gummy bears, you bring some chips, you bring some fruit leathers and honey stingers and some RX
Fruit
bars.
leathers.
And
Oh, he can go through the fruit leather.
Like I'll eat the one
That's
or
a good
two
one, though.
little
It's
fruit
like 40 pounds of fruit leather in his pack.
no, but they're like
every sitting.
60-some calories
We
for
could-
one little little thing.
We could build a saddle out of the amount of leather you pack in. It'd be a fruit saddle.
Seriously. You look over and it's like, you just ate 7 of them, Brady, in one sitting.
Fruit's good.
Fruit's good. Deep thoughts by Brady.
But I've never regretted, especially on like our goat hunt where you're backpacking in there and you have the potential to have a couple days of bad weather. I've never been upset that I packed an extra 5 pounds of snacks.
Okay.
'Cause that 5 pounds hurts a little getting up there, but once you're up there and you're sitting in a tent, it's a big deal.
Now, one thing I've done is I've started to, because I love the Peak Refuel freeze-dried, I've started to supplement maybe some of my lunch items with, or a late breakfast item with another Peak, another freeze-dried, where I never did that with Mountain House. I would just want snacks, and then Mountain House at the end of the day. But now, you don't like giving up your snacks for another freeze-dried meal, right? You would prefer more different snacks throughout the day?
Well, just take both.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
It's
I know
not
the
an
answer.
exclusivity
Yeah,
thing.
I know the answer. It's both.
But
Okay.
For sure.
you know,
Because we pack a jet boil and fuel and a meal or two almost everywhere we go now.
yeah,
Like
for a day
one of
pack
us
even,
will,
we have a
right?
meal,
Like
yeah.
one of us will break up and be like, all right, do you got a jet boil or not? Like if he's filming and running alongside me or any of us, we always have a peak meal and a jet boil in our pack.
I think that's changed definitely for me over the years. I never used to do
Same.
that. I would leave the stove at camp. I'll eat when I get back. Well, what if you get back late or tired?
Yep.
Like, remember when we were done caping out, cutting up Sierra's goat?
Mm-hmm.
We said, get some water. We're all going to eat a meal. Right?
That was great.
And we all sat down there and ate a meal. When a lot of times you would just say, oh, let's just start packing and get back to camp. You burn yourself out. You're tired. It's too late when you get back to camp. You don't want to eat. Like, just sit down and force yourself to eat that 900 or 1,000 calories. I know I felt a lot better
Oh, yeah.
as we turned and kept hunting.
Well, I had eaten one for lunch, too, and I wasn't even hungry, and I ate one, and then it ended up being a 2 a.m. night, and I was really glad I did.
Yeah, because you're not going to stop at 11 o'clock or midnight
No.
and sit down and cook a freeze-dried, but eat before you're hungry saves your butt, especially on those backpacking hunts.
You know what I did in that Yukon hunt that I'd do it differently in the future, but I had a thing of hot sauce,
Uh-huh.
like a little bottle, and obviously the glass bottle wasn't super cool, but
As in, did it explode in your pack?
it was just a little
Eventually?
heavier than it needed
Oh.
to be. But having some hot sauce for like the biscuits and gravy meals and all the other meals when you're out there for 14 days, just having something
To change
to
it
change up the
spice it
meals.
up.
Ooh, it was good.
I thought maybe you were going to tell us that it busted when it clanked against the skillet you were packing.
No.
No, I know a lot of guys will go raid a restaurant like the little
The little
Tabasco
ones.
packets or something. If you're into carrying glass, you can do what Brady does. But
Well, that was a last-minute decision in Whitehorse. they had a lot of good-looking hot sauces.
Brady's packing style when it comes to food is he gets all his necessities in his pack, and then he just slowly crams more and more and more snacks into it. Like, literally, he refuses to go on the mountain with an inch of space, not a single
Yes,
cubic inch
you're
of
not
space.
wrong.
no matter what size your pack is, like
Yep.
you've got that new EXO,
Yeah.
and every stitch was just whining.
Well, it's only a
little bit.
4800.
Yeah, but you had over 6,000 in that.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Like every stitch is just bulging.
Yeah.
Well, I put the Cheetos on top of my tripod sleeve. It's a good spot to keep them out of the
Out of the
squish.
crush zone.
Yeah.
Pro
No,
tip. Pro tip.
I think Brady is a perfect foodie, right? Brady, your body fat content is pretty dang low.
Yeah,
I think you've got a fast metabolism, and you're young.
that too.
But I think every hunter that's going on a backcountry or backpack trip or an Alaska hunt should take note of this. If you go up there without your own favorite snack or food or gummy bear, you're dumb.
Mhm.
Don't say, oh, well, the guide's got all my food. Yeah, he does. But he's got sustenance. He's got what's going to keep you
Yeah.
alive. Maybe the flavor you like, maybe
It's
it's
going to be a dry, old, crusty Nature
Yeah.
Valley granola bar that when you open
Crumble.
it, it's going to turn into dust.
4 days of mac and cheese Mountain House in a row.
Well, that was a big part on the Yukon hunt and I mean, they were working their butts off, and they did a great job for us, but they were still like, oh, yeah, like maybe bring some snacks if you have some favorites. And I brought all, like, 2 grocery bags of snacks.
They'll always make it sound like it's not a big deal. I mean, if you want.
Oh, but if I wouldn't have had, like, my own food
Yeah.
and, like, just some good, like, Mountain Ops bars for, a good protein bar for a snack, then it would have sucked. We would have been hungry. We would have been low on food.
Well, that was one of the pro tips that Jason Hairston gave us back when we interviewed him on previous podcasts. He said, do not show up at camp without your food kit dialed in,
No.
at least, the supplemental foods, because he's like, they'll get it wrong, and your body craves and needs certain things. So.
Yeah, like if you've met an Alaska pilot, those guys can survive a day and a half on one granola bar and a little bit of water. Like they don't eat. They forget to eat. And so when they think of a hunter, oh, you just need what I need. Couple granola bars and a Snickers. You're good.
Not the case.
No. It's comfort food, especially when you're weathered in a tent. All I want to do is eat. I want like Peachios or gummy bears or Sour Patch.
Like cookies. Ooh.
Like that's what I want. And you'll never be upset that you took some extra favorite snack when you're stuck in your tent watching the time click by on your phone.
You know what, too, is it's a great way to make someone not mad at you anymore.
When you pull out that
When you share.
Hey, try this little sour gummy bear.
Oh, especially if they didn't bring their food and you're like day 5 and everyone's starting to get a little cranky and you're like, you want some chocolate covered acai berries? And they're like, oh my gosh,
Where'd you get this?
yeah.
Trader
Had
Joe's
this all along?
Sweet. Okay, I think food is a good takeaway, and we can talk about food forever. But let's jump over Jared. When I think of Jared on a backpack hunt, particularly on this goat hunt,
Here we go.
I think of very, very sweaty Jared, right? Like we went
That's
around.
me in the office, let alone on a backpack hunt.
Jared's sweat management is out of control. We spent some time looking for additional bandanas, do-rags before going on the mountain. But I think that's important for people to realize because they look at the weather for Alaska and they go, oh, it's going to be cold. It's going to be 50 degrees for the high, 40 degrees for the low. It's going to be cold. I need jackets. I need all this stuff. But you need to take into account your activity level, if you're hiking or not, the humidity level.
Yeah.
And your personal sweat profile.
Exactly. That is a thing.
Your PSP.
Jared's PSP is underwater.
Exactly right.
This is not a joke.
A, you can't drink enough water. B, you can't bring enough dry clothes.
Yeah. So you do bring extra clothes because you like, when you crawl into your tent at night, you like to have something dry.
Yep.
And what is your favorite material when it's humid like that? What do you like against your body? Because you're going to sweat anyway.
Right.
So what do you like?
Well, I run a lot of Kuyu's Peloton 130 and 118 for heavy activity just because but any synthetic material that dries quickly is good for me in those scenarios. Because unfortunately, like if it was in a super hot climate and you've got, say, a merino wool layer on that gets really wet, it kind of keeps you cool because it holds the sweat in for a long time. But in Alaska, you really go hard, you're sweating hard, and then all of a sudden you're sitting and it's cool. So I either A, run something that's light enough and synthetic will dry quickly, or B, I bring another couple of layers just for immediately ripping out of those, strapping it on my backpack so it'll try to dry in the air, and then throwing a dry one on.
So what about pants, though? You're not going to do that on pants. Just talking base layer shirt?
Yeah, for the most part, again, I think synthetic is critical on your underwear, too. I made the mistake 20 years ago of running around in cotton underwear all the time, and you talk about a recipe for chafing and not drying well. But, no, synthetic underwear are important. I mean, I've worn anything from merino wool to MeUndies. Thank you, Joe Rogan. And that's actually my favorite kind of underwear to wear at this point in time. But they'll typically dry quickly because they're underneath a pant layer or whatever else, so I can typically get away with that. But I'm not above, actually. I'll carry an extra pair of wool socks and an extra pair of underwear in addition to these other little next-to-skin layers in my pack if I think that it could really, really change from, dying of sweat, drowning my clothes, to glassing at 20-degree temperatures or whatever else. I'm not afraid to completely, strip down on the mountain.
When you, say you're going on a 5-day backpacking hunt, how many, do you just bring one spare set of clothes, basically?
I bring a sleep set, which is terrible to have to do. But again, if you've sweated that much throughout the day and then, you're typically getting dirt kicked up on the trail or whatever else, I don't like crawling into my sleeping bag and sticking to it all night. So I'll take a thin, clean pair of socks and underwear and a thin shirt that I'll wear inside my sleeping bag, and they just stay in there. Once I get my tent set up and I sleep that night, I take those clothes back off and just leave them inside my sleeping bag and put them back on, and I just sleep in that the whole time. And so then I usually have one extra pair that I can rotate through dry and wet and rotate them through. So 3 sets, basically.
Have you tried a sleeping bag liner?
No.
Oh.
Something a little softer.
Well, yeah, probably a little lighter. I don't know.
I think convection is important. So a lot of times in Alaska, you have wind, so you can always dry out your clothes pretty easy. You throw them, even if it's humid and still wet out, you throw them out on a
I disagree.
bush. They will dry quickly.
Oh, good. I like fights.
What do you disagree about?
It's not true.
The properties of synthetic clothing.
You don't get dry.
No. You're not going to get dry, but I'm saying you can take this wet piece of clothing and set it out, and it will dry. If you have a piece of cotton or wool and you set it out, it is never going to dry.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. You're not going to feel dry.
No.
You're going to feel wet until you get off the plane and you come home.
Until you're in lower 48 air.
Correct.
I think that's one of the best pieces of advice I've ever heard from you, Austin, is basically if you're in Alaska, you can't pack enough clothes to stay comfortable the entire time. You're going to have to pack enough clothes that you can survive the entire time.
Sure.
And the right kind of clothes, the right kind of layers. But that basically from the time your hunt starts till the time it ends, there's a high likelihood that you're going to feel clammy and uncomfortable.
For sure.
It's miserable.
Well,
Yep.
I think being mentally prepared for that is a big thing too, because like commercial fishing, it's the same way. You're always wet, salty, and all the new guys that come up, they're like, "Oh, I don't like this." Well, just grow up, deal with it, and then it won't be an issue.
It's going to be all over soon.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not that big a deal. It's just you're not used to it.
Yep.
So if you can mentally be prepared to be like, I'm going to be wet, and it's going to be super okay.
Yep.
Well, that's the misconception with all this great clothing we wear. We wear Kuiu clothing, and when you buy it or you read the marketing, it's like, this is waterproof, this will keep you dry. It does when you compare it to your other option,
Right.
a poncho and a cotton shirt. Yeah,
Hey, ponchos are great.
we're getting there. We're getting to ponchos. But you're going to feel wet because it's just humid and you're going through wet brush. And I rely on convection to dry a lot of my clothes.
Same.
Whether it's in my sleeping bag, going to bed wet at night, wake up dry in the morning with all your clothes on.
Dry-ish.
Dry-ish. Sorry, drier.
Yes.
Yes.
Or just when I get on the mountain and I sit down, if I don't have a change of clothes, which most of the time I don't, I'll put my super down, puffy layer over top of my clothes. Your body heat convects and you dry out quickly.
That next to skin layer is getting dry while that's happening.
For sure.
You
So
know,
I think realize that it's going to suck, and you can't say, oh, my rain gear failed or these pants failed. They didn't fail. You feel like they did as compared to sitting at your office at home. You might feel a little more wet, but you're not wet.
yeah, definitely. Also, like, especially with rain gear, you're going to be sweating because you're going to be hiking in it. So but normally you dry out when you sweat in rain gear in normal conditions, not up there.
No.
Sleeping in a sleeping bag with clothes. I figured something out. If you don't have, like, if it's cold out and you really suck the bag tight around your face,
Yeah.
and you got your socks on and your pants on or whatever, it won't dry out as well. And
You'd
you
like
gotta
it
you
if
gotta have
there's-
ventilation in the bag
Okay.
to dry out the clothes that you're wearing.
I'd buy
And
that.
that's a great
'Cause
move.
that lets the humidity leave.
Right, you just need
Yeah.
it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So don't cinch it up all the way tight.
If you want to dry out, be cold for the first bit of your night and dry out, and then you can cinch it up and you wake up totally dry. You don't have to put on cold socks.
Excellent.
I
point.
usually don't wear my socks in the sleeping bag no matter what.
Oh, really?
I'll take them off because
Oh, I have to.
Because you don't have a super clean pair like I do that stays in there.
I don't ever sleep with socks on. But that is a separate thing that if you've had it happen to you, it can be very serious. When you start getting fungus on your feet and you wear socks, there's antimicrobial properties to these good socks, but you wear them for days and days and days on end. I've had guides and clients get very serious foot infections because they don't take their socks off and they don't change them, dry them out regularly, especially if you're wearing a nylon liner and things like that. Your feet do need to breathe.
Yep, they need to get dry.
They need to.
Yeah.
And if you're just going right out of your boots, right into your sleeping bag with your socks on, it can be pretty serious after a few days. So I always take a little bit of antifungal cream just in case, and then rotate through your liners, rotate through your socks. I can get by with dirty underwear, dirty shirts and pants, but socks I'm kind of particular about.
Yeah, I think for me thankfully that's about the only part of my body that doesn't sweat. So I as a general rule, my feet are dry all night anyway.
It's
when I put
already dripped off by the time it gets
Yes,
down to your
yes, exactly.
It's
so I
out
put
of
the dry
water by the
socks
time
on.
it gets down
But
there.
I do want to rewind to rain gear real quick because that's another important thing. You guys both mentioned that, at the end of the day, you're gonna feel wet inside your rain gear no matter what. and you're going to feel like it failed, whether it's your own body heat, creating moisture through true sweat like I do, or even just the heat and work that you do for people who don't sweat very bad. They generate a lot of moisture inside. It's like a single wall tent at the end of the day.
Yep.
But so like on the goat hunt, we came off of that hill in a pretty nasty rainstorm. It was pouring.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't wear rain gear on purpose.
Right.
Because I knew when I got to the bottom, I was going to be soaked and cold. With or without the rain gear on, I was going to be soaked. And so I chose to leave my rain gear dry and in my bag so that when I got to the bottom, I could throw on my dry next to skin layer, throw my rain gear over the top of it, and have a very quick reboot on my body heat. So, like I said, sometimes you're better off if you know you have dry clothes.
I mean, granted, you were borderline hypothermic for a moment.
Yeah, but I would have been with or without it. That's the thing.
Sure.
And then my rain gear would have
Sure.
been soaked too, and I wouldn't have had that good, dry insulation layer to kind of like start immediately trapping heat around my body. So sometimes you got to make choices like that too. It's like, is this smarter for me to wear my rain gear right now, or is it smarter for me to actually use it later in a more critical situation when I'm going to be? Because then we were going to wait for a float plane to come pick us
Right.
up for who knows how long.
Right.
It didn't
And you're
take too
sitting.
long, but it could have taken hours and hours. And
I see that with my clients all the time. Like I try to tell my clients when they come on a sheep hunt or a bear hunt, just do what I do.
Right.
I know I probably run hotter than you, and I'm not going to get as cold because I'm used to it, but please just copy me.
Right.
If I stop and take my puffy coat off, you should too.
Right.
And if I put my rain gear on, you should probably put it on too. And undoubtedly they refuse to listen, and they do what they want. Okay, you're going to learn, but it'll just start sprinkling out, or we'll walk through a wet bush and they're like, I'm putting my rain gear on. Pit zipped up because they don't want to get wet. Rain gear is going to protect them.
yeah.
And you walk another 500 yards and they're just dripping, just drenched from the inside out, where I'm up on the ridge hitting the wind and I feel dry already.
Yep.
But they're soaked. It's like, always copy what your guide is doing, because he probably feels what's coming up next a little better. He's more experienced with the gear. And then they're saying, cussing their rain gear, I'm wet. Like gaiters is a good example.
Yes.
I love gaiters, but I don't wear them religiously because they make your legs and your feet hot a lot of times.
Yeah,
So
they do on me too.
if I'm waking up in the morning, I know there's going to be dew on the ground or it's going to be wet, crossing creeks, I'll put them on. But a lot of times I won't wear gaiters unless I know that I need the property or the assistance in the scree coming down, or to keep me out of the wet. Otherwise I'll leave them off. I'll just hook them on my pack because I don't want to get hot down there. And I see hunters lacing their gaiters up first thing in the morning. It's like, dude, we're just glassing on this hillside. You're going to get hot by lacing those up first thing in the morning.
So now is when we talk about ponchos.
Okay, ponchos.
Oh, here we go. Pancho Villa himself.
But you got to admit, so on the Yukon hunt is like one of my favorite moments, because we all stopped to glass for, we were going to be there for 3 hours. Made lunch, started to rain really hard, forever. And I had a plastic poncho that I put on. It covered my legs, my shoulders, and I had rain gear on
Backpack.
too. Yeah, I had a cover over my pack because it was off. But still, I was in my own little tent, and I was completely dry. My rain gear dried out a little bit. You could see all the condensation on the poncho that was coming off my rain gear. And I was happy. The other two weren't.
Yeah.
It was like this little $5 piece of plastic that, weighs nothing. It was really nice on the goat hunt, or on the goat hunt too.
Yeah, we used it that day. We went looking for bears after the goat hunt was over. We did like 16 miles, most of it off and on in the rain, and Brady was in and out of the poncho. Sierra was. And, yeah, you keep everything. I used to be a huge fan of, like, ponchos. I'd always buy the little $5.99 Walmart versions of them or whatever. And then I just kind of quit doing it. But, like, especially, like, if you're hunting in the Southwest and you get those afternoon huge those monsoon thunderstorms or whatever. But it's not a bad idea. I will give you credit there, Brady.
Well,
And it breathes.
yeah, because it's
Just
got a lot of
because
holes
the,
underneath it.
the
Yeah.
loft.
that's where I think you're onto something there, is it's not right on your body.
Right.
All the rain gear nowadays, we've gotten away from 3/4 length,
Yeah.
which I still like my 3/4 length rain jacket, but we've gone to just a jacket and pants that are rain gear. Well, it's always better if you can be out of the rain.
Right.
And so a poncho helps you feel more out of the rain where it's not right against your body. I'll take it a next step further because I carried a tarp, a shelter tarp, on a lot of my hunts this year. That's even better because when I was going out on the bear hunt, and I know it's going to rain for the next 6 or 8 hours, take a little time, set up that shelter. We don't have to put our rain gear on.
Right.
You feel so much better because it's not pounding against your head. It's not leaking down your sleeves into your pockets. It's not running down your pants because you're just sitting under this little tarp shelter and you have ventilation. You don't have that rain gear against your body. And mentally, you feel a lot better because it's not soaking everything on you and hitting your face.
Mentally is huge.
And you can glass without getting your optics wet.
100%. There's so many properties to it that are good. I think everybody should carry a little tarp shelter. I'm looking at the other lighter weight options and smaller, bigger, but they're not that hard to set up. You got plenty of guy outlines on it. You've got your trekking poles to keep it up, and just set it up. You'll feel so much better sitting there than under a tree that's just dripping on you the whole time.
Yeah, and another thing, like we took one on the goat hunt. We kind of had some shared community things because there were several of us there, which is always a pro tip. There's no sense in 4 guys and a lady on that hunt going and all 5 of us having stoves, right?
No.
We're going to share some. And so we took a community tarp, and after Sierra and Isaiah both killed their mountain goats, it was wet. Where are you going to put a goat cape? Both goat capes were perfectly dry and in great shape, and they didn't weigh an extra 20 pounds each because they were soaked with rain. So how are we going to keep them dry? So when I got back to camp that night with Sierra, I took the time to set up that tarp shelter, and we put the meat and the capes underneath it to keep everything dry, and it just makes it easier to manage it later. So it's like you can use it for a lot of different purposes.
There's no trees.
No
to
trees.
hang it in.
Yeah.
Yep. So prop it up, set it on a rock, whatever.
Use
but
trekking poles for the
rain.
for the elevation, but then you keep it out of the rain.
Another quick tangent. You just said not everyone needs to bring a stove. Something we learned in the Yukon, you need at least 2.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
Because our guide's stove failed, and I was the only other one with a stove. And we were out there 2-day horse ride away from where another stove was.
From the next closest stove.
Yeah, and so if we wouldn't have had a spare, it would have been you just toast. You have to go back.
Yeah.
Because you have freeze-dried meals that are prepared for
a stove. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's true.
No, and a lot of that depends on how far away you are, right? You were on a incredibly remote stone sheep hunt versus, I'm, a 4-hour backpack or a ruck back to my truck to go get another stove, then I might not take it. But
now, as far as sharing community gear, like on that goat hunt, there's one thing we said we're not going to share, and that might not be what people think of, and that was tents. Everybody's into buying these 3-man, 4-man tents, but realistically, you stink too bad and snore too bad.
Too loud.
I don't want to sleep with you.
I don't stink, but I do snore too loud.
He doesn't smell that bad.
Oh, for sure. You don't even know what you're talking about.
Sweaty Jared.
Your upper lip smelled so bad you couldn't even smell anybody else, probably.
I know. I would feel bad sharing with somebody.
I didn't want to.
I've shared with my dad a few times, and it's like, just bring your own tent.
Yep.
The tents are so lightweight. Just get a smaller tent that's good for you. I know I look in Brady's tent, it's going to be snacks everywhere, and he's going to have all his stuff spread out.
Well, everything was really well organized, and no one messed with it because it was my tent.
That's right.
There's no one else in there.
I hate when you're sharing a tent with somebody, and they're rolling over and their craps everywhere, and then they got to get out and pee in the middle of the night, and it's like, just get your own tent.
It's also drier when it's just you in the tent.
For sure.
And you have more space to dry out.
You can keep your stuff off the side of the tent. You don't have to keep stuff outside the vestibule.
Right.
I know I have, like on my tent, I have this vestibule is for my pack, this vestibule is for my boots and my other stuff, and then everything's inside the tent and nice and dry, right in the middle.
Not nice and dry. Again, this is Alaska. Moist. Yeah. It's less wet.
Lightly damp.
Yeah. When you crawl in, it's gonna feel damp. You're like, ooh.
That's true. Hey, well, let's go to that for a second. This is a pro tip of mine, or I learned it the hard way tip. When I leave my tent in the morning, if I'm leaving my camp, meaning my sleeping bag, my pad, and my tent, I always put my sleeping bag in the waterproof sack before I leave.
I know where you're going with this.
And there's 2 reasons for that. And I always recommend clients do that as well. When you go to zip up your tent, put your sleeping bag in your waterproof sack. Your pad you can leave out. You can deflate it, whatever. But 2 reasons. Condensation is one, especially if you're in a shelter or single wall. It might seem like there's no condensation in there. It's probably froze. And then it turns into a rain shower once the sun comes up and soaks your sleeping bag. The other reason is your tent explodes.
Correct.
And
That's
that
where I thought
happens
you were going.
a lot.
Yeah, in Alaska it happens a lot.
You can come back to your camp. You left it. It was calm in the morning. Now it's blowing 60, and your tent wasn't guyed out as well as you thought it was. And it's either shredded your tent, and your sleeping bag is now down the mountain, which we've had hunters lose their sleeping bags that way. Or your tent's partially collapsed, and the rain's hitting it, and now it's soaked through and soaked your sleeping bag. So now you come back to a wet, soaked sleeping bag.
The Alaska yard sale.
Yeah, miserable.
Yes.
And it can happen. There's too many variables on what can happen to your tent. Water gets under your tent and soaks through. So when you wake up, roll your sleeping bag up, stuff it in its waterproof sack if you're going to leave it. Because that could be a lifesaver.
Right.
Cheap
Your
insurance.
sleeping bag needs to be dry and workable when you go to crawl in it at night. For sure. Now, you get any sun, if that happens, get your sleeping bag out, dry it out.
Yeah.
It'll turn into a yard sale quick.
But don't leave it out assuming it'll stay sunny.
No, don't leave
No,
anything.
no.
When you leave your camp, it needs to be buttoned down as if a hurricane's coming. All your stuff's going to be fine.
No matter what
See
the weather
guys
is.
all the time, oh, I left my socks out and my, clothes from yesterday and my sleeping bag out. No, this weather is going to change. It might seem nice now, but you don't know what you're coming back to. It could turn upside down. The weather changes a lot up there.
It's
That was
so fickle.
my favorite lesson on the goat hunt, and I feel like I'm continually learning that is not that I'm making the group decisions here, but we went hard when the weather was good, and that happened to be the first day. If we would have gotten up there and it would have been cloudy the first 3 days, it would have been a lot easier on the sunny day to say, all right, let's go all out. But it was sunny our first day. And since you guys knew
Alaska.
the memo, it was like, we're going all in. And that was the best move.
Yeah, we
If
killed
we
2
wouldn't
goats.
have, we probably wouldn't have killed a second goat.
Yeah.
Or it would have taken a long time.
It would have been a lot
because we had
worse.
zero visibility the next day.
But just like
not
as
zero,
simple
but
as,
next to zero.
Right. As simple as when the weather's good, go all out because
Go.
you won't regret it.
Yep.
Well,
Well, I learned that too the first time we went to Kodiak on a transported hunt. Very first day out, beautiful weather. We've only got an afternoon to hunt. I'm kind of like, oh my goodness, I'm kind of like nonchalant about it because I hadn't done enough recent Alaska hunts. Thankfully, we killed 6 deer that night or something like that. 5 deer. I think we killed 5, I guess. But thankfully, because after that, the weather was just poo. Absolute poo. Snow, sleet, nasty, low visibility.
Yep.
And that day was just beautiful. And the next morning, I guess, was pretty too. And then it was over.
And then it was done. We've talked about that for years, and you'll hear everybody say that, but there's still hunters that go up there that don't listen to that. You hunt every day in Alaska as if it's your last.
Yeah.
Because it might be.
Right.
You are going to lose half your days to weather. Just cut them right off the top. 10-day hunt, you got 5 decent days to hunt. And that still messes with guys as they get up there. Oh, this is a dream hunt. I've planned this forever. And your hunter or your guide shows you an awesome moose or a big caribou walks by the first day, and you're like, I don't want it to be over. Well, you might not get to make that decision. If you don't take this opportunity, it might be over. So you have to hunt it. And guys always want to work up to it. They do it on elk and deer hunts down here. I want to work up to my hunt where I kill.
Right.
Jared
It's like-
does that all the time.
Yeah.
Let me pass on this beautiful bull.
I tend to, yeah. I like to extend the hunt or
Yeah,
prolong
but there's a reason behind that, and I don't see you extending a hunt maybe as much that you've never done before. That's a once in a lifetime opportunity.
100%.
You're going elk hunting, you're like, I'm going to elk hunt every year, so I'm going to make this the way I want it to be, kill when I'm ready, whatever it may be. But when you're going on a once in a lifetime, like your grizzly bear hunt 2 years ago, you weren't going to be like, oh, this is a really good opportunity with my bow, but I just want it to be on day 4 and not day 5 or 6 or 2. And like, what? No, you don't get to decide that.
Nope. Was all I remember is you saying it's a male, and I said I'm shooting it because I had already ranged it. That's how long it took.
Now take advantage of that because if you plan and scout and prepare properly, either you or your guide, whatever it is, you should always hunt plan A first.
Yeah.
I never start with plan C on day one and then work up to B and then A. No, I'm going best spot, best opportunity, biggest animal, best chance first.
Yep.
After that, it's going downhill. Especially like on sheep hunts in Alaska. I'm going to the very best chance I have to kill one on opening day.
Yep.
After that, it's second string, third string, bench warmer. We're going down after that. So don't look at your guide or at your opportunity and say, I just don't want it to be over today. Well, it might be over the rest of the time if you don't take advantage of that opportunity.
Yeah. And no place is that more true than on Alaskan hunts.
100%.
Another thing is be careful about how you take your rest days, because on that sheep hunt, Terry was very tired, right? We all were. And there was a morning, like we were looking at the weather through our inReach, and it was like, all right, supposed to be sunny in the morning, rainy in the afternoon. And we were all kind of on the fence, motivated reasoning. I'm tired. Maybe it'd be smart to take a rest day tomorrow. We didn't. We got up. It was beautiful sunny, hiked up the mountain, and shot a sheep. By the time we had it in our packs ready to go, it was zero visibility. Just like if we wouldn't have even gotten up early, if we would have gotten up a couple hours late, it wouldn't have happened. So
that's true. You got to take advantage of it when you can. Go hard, be ready, but because it's going to change. And like this year was just a bad year for weather.
This year sucked.
All over the
so
place.
Cold.
There was so many people stuck, delayed. The weather just hammered everybody across the whole state of Alaska.
All summer.
Yeah, I feel like we were pretty lucky. You guys had a phenomenal hunt this spring for black bears off the boat. You guys had some stupid good weather.
Again, though, we only had 2 days of it. We had 5 days to hunt.
It's true.
First 2 days were amazing. We killed all 5 of our bears in those first 2 days, and then gale force winds came up, and we had to go hide on the boat and basically try to fish halibut in like 9-foot swells.
Well, we didn't try. We crushed it.
We did. Yeah, you didn't have to jig. Let's put it that way. The boat was bouncing. You just had to try to stay on the bottom with your lure. But no, we made haste while the sun shines again, and we all killed our bears on the 2 best days of weather we had. Had we not, the opportunities would have gone downhill drastically.
Yeah.
Just like you said, you got plan A, and then after that.
Yeah.
And if you say, I just really don't want to shoot one on the first day, my suggestion, come 5 days earlier then.
Yeah, come scout.
And then opening day will be really day 6.
Yeah.
And then you'll feel like killing. Mm-hmm. But don't say, I'm not going to take the shot opening day. Oh, okay, cool. Or I want this trip to be longer, like on our Doll sheep hunts. Guys are like, I'm not ready to go home yet. Well, here's my suggestion. Get the heck out of the mountains, go back to town, and go fishing for a few days.
Yeah, book a fishing charter out of Anchorage.
Go bear viewing, do whatever, but don't sit here in this nasty sheep camp waiting for a super cub to come land, because if the weather's a little bad, he's not coming.
Yeah.
And you're stuck eating gummy bears. And I'm not very good at sharing my gummy bears.
You're not very good at sharing anything.
I don't know if that's true.
Other than some tips.
That's not true.
What?
Austin's pretty nice.
See, I'm pretty nice.
Must be nicer to you.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I share back because I bring good snacks.
That's true. I just got the standard junk fare. You got some pouch Spam?
You want some Spam in a bag and maybe some nuts? No, I don't.
Now, some things with Alaska, like this year, we've got a Sitka blacktail hunt on a boat charter on Kodiak Island. And we chose to do that hunt super late this year.
Yeah.
Which is going to be cold weather. It's going to be less daylight. But there's a really good chance the deer are going to be a lot lower and close to the beach. So you have a chance of, late rut, post-rut activity. The snow will have pushed the deer down lower. We've done this hunt quite a few times on Kodiak, but this will be the latest trip we've ever done.
By a pretty good margin.
The sea ducks hunting is going to be off the charts. Awesome.
Yep.
Fox hunting should be great. But you're going to be a pretty short window of daylight every day. You're going to spend a lot of time on the boat, which is nice because it's going to be heated. So all these things go in to affect when you're planning an Alaska hunt. Can I stay dry? Can I stay comfortable? Can I stay happy? Is there plenty of food when it's dark for 18 hours of the day? And I know this hunt we're giving away right now caters to that. It's going to be a good setup, even though it's December in Alaska.
Yeah, I pounced on it when we had the opportunity. Group canceled on Nanilchik, and it's their bigger boat that I actually haven't hunted off of yet. I'm looking forward to it because it's like 10 feet bigger than the one we usually do. More bunks, more space, more privacy. And, yeah, it's December 4 to 10, and you can enter to win that hunt between now and October 22. So don't be shy about that.
The whole boat's ours.
The whole boat's a hunting fool boat.
We're
giving away a spot for 2 people. One winner gets to bring a pal, and it should be a super fun hunt. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not sure which of our hunt advisors are going to go yet, but at least 2 of us will be on that trip.
Yeah, we're going to have to arm wrestle and see who gets to go.
I have a feeling it might be you, Austin.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Don't tell my wife. Is she listening?
This is how Austin finds, or how Chelsea finds out where Austin is going.
Podcast.
Let me listen to the podcast.
What have you planned now? Hey, you got to be selective how you break the news of what you've drawn or what you've planned to your wife. That's a pro tip.
True. The other thing we're going to give away 2 spots. I booked a spring bear trip too, like the one we were just talking about, for next year on an awesome boat that we hunted off of, and it's just incredible bear hunting. We're going to give away 2 spots